presentation and induction of our Brevard Walk of Fame honorees. We now invite to the stage last year's Community Commitment Award recipient, Glad Curian of Morgan Stanley.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you, Greg. You're the best. It is my honor to introduce Mr. Edward and Cheryl Scott among Brevard's leading citizens and philanthropists of impact. Philanthropy is a major activity on the Space Coast, as we all know. But I know of no other couple that have had more impact on a wider scale than the Scotts. Their significant contributions at Florida Institute of Technology and Holy Trinity are but two of the local facts that we all know of. There is much more to know about the Scotts. And speed reading through a special book that I was given to by Mrs. Scott last year, I learned so much, it was amazing. The Scotts' major involvements include something known as the Center for Global Development. That's a big deal. Endowed Chair for Psychiatry at Oxford University, the first such medical chair devoted to the study of autism. Compassion International, Special Olympics, Face the Facts USA, and many more that you will soon hear about on the video that Edward has prepared. Mr. Ed Scott's grandfather worked on the Panama Canal project in 1908. Ed was born in Panama, later worked there before moving to Detroit and then DC. Mr. Ed Scott studied political science at the University of Michigan and philosophy, politics, and economics at Oxford. Mr. Scott founded BEA Systems in 1995, later sold to Oracle Corporation for $8.5 billion. With a B. Here are some quotes from a book dedicated to Mr. Scott, and this gives us an insight into his approach, his philosophy, and his approach to the whole aspect of how philanthropy should be done. To produce knowledge and science as opposed to myths and slogans. That's one I like. Another one, to reduce global poverty and inequality by encouraging policy change in the United States and other rich countries through rigorous research and active management with the policy community. It's all about leverage. From everything I've learned about Mr. Scott, two words come to mind on his approach to philanthropy. Once again, impact and sustainability. Making a positive impact and sustaining communities through philanthropy are the Scott's life mission. Ed and Cheryl Scott have 4 children. Eric works for Oracle, Edward is a lawyer, Heather is a journalist with AFP, and Reese is founder of a video game company in Tokyo. Cheryl attended Eckerd College. Listen to this is amazing. What a connection and an absolute coincidence. And it was still Florida Presbyterian College. She was a computer programmer for the federal government for 17 years. And she was in charge of business planning for high-tech companies in Silicon Valley, while Mr. Scott was entrepreneur and technology heavyweight. Cheryl has a degree from San Jose State, I hope I'm correct, in comparative religions. Please turn your attention to the monitors for a video presentation.
Ed and Cheryl Scott. Ed Scott is an experienced and successful business executive, a former assistant secretary in the U.S. government, and an active supporter of several philanthropic initiatives. Inside Philanthropy also named Ed number 4 out of 12 most generous tech philanthropists, just behind Bill Gates. Since withdrawing from direct management at BEA, which he founded, Mr. Scott and his wife Cheryl initiated a variety of philanthropic initiatives, including the funding and support of several orphanages and child development centers. centers in Central America. Ed and Cheryl focused on global policy and advocacy, stretching their dollars by influencing how governments approach development. Therefore, Ed and Cheryl founded Friends of the Global Fight Against AIDS, Tuberculosis, and Malaria, the Center for the Interfaith Action on Global Poverty, and the Scott Family Liberia Fellows Program. Along with Bill Gates and George Soros, Mr. Scott is a co-founder of DATA, Debt, AIDS, Trade, Africa, an advocacy organization dedicated to building public and political awareness about development problems in Africa, most notably the HIV/AIDS pandemic. The lead singer of the rock band U2, Bono, is the principal spokesperson of DATA, now called One, and he has used it as the principal platform for his visible and effective advocacy on global development and health policies. But Ed and Cheryl have another passion, one that's deeply personal: autism. Here, too, they have committed both serious time and energy approaching things differently than many other philanthropists. Ed and Cheryl's son Reese showed all the signs of autism as a child and couldn't speak until he was 4. Despite this unexpected turn in life, with Ed and Cheryl's constant, loving support, Reese would go on to graduate from Georgetown, get a master's degree from the University of Oxford, and even become fluent in Japanese. After their own struggle, Ed and Cheryl wanted to do what they could to improve the autism field, to create better strategies to treat autistic children. Ed and Cheryl worked with the Florida Institute of Technology to create the Scott Center for Autism Treatment in 2009. The Scott Center provides world-class assessment and treatment services for children diagnosed with autism while conducting innovative research. The goal is to improve the lives of autistic children, their parents, and everyone else who deals with the autistic challenge. Ed and Cheryl hope to inspire and motivate others to do all they can to help those in need. As Ed has stated, do something for other people, and you're going to be very happy you did. Ed and Cheryl Scott.
This is a little overwhelming. Thank you so much. It's unbelievable. It's almost like a walk down memory lane. I moved to Cocoa when I was 7. It was 1954. And my father came here as a mathematician. He'd been a high school teacher out in western Kansas. And Dorothy ended up in Florida. And I loved it here. And then I went away for about 35 years, and then we came back when Ed retired. One of my earliest memories was just jogged by the lovely playing of Pachelbel's Canon. It was one of the first 33s that Ed and I listened to together. And then Glenn talked about teaching boys to tie ties and how to shake hands, and that was something that Ed did for my 11-year-old son. It was just me and Eric, and Ed came into our lives and completely turned it around, and he taught Eric how to shave, and how to tie a tie, and how to shake hands. And Eric has always said that the most important thing that Ed taught him was how to shake hands. And Eric went on to be very, very successful at Oracle. After Oracle bought Sun, where Eric was working. And I myself have learned so much from Ed. I wouldn't be the same person if Ed hadn't come into my life. He taught me about giving, about loving, and how to speak the King's English. Just being a little girl from Brevard County. When Ed and I went to Africa, I think it was like in 2009 maybe, we went to probably one of the poorest countries there. It was Liberia. And they just come out of a 15-year-old civil war. And the president of the country, Ellen Sirleaf Johnson, had been a president of the World Bank and had come to CGD for the Center for Global Development, which Ed had founded, for help. And we went over there to see what was what. I know there's something called relative deprivation, where you look around at your neighbors and see how much better off they are than you are. But when you get to Africa, it all goes away, the relative deprivation, because everybody is poor. There is nobody in the United States that is as poor as the people we met in Liberia. It was just a life-changing event for me and for Reese. He spoke about it at Ed's 80th birthday party last May. It's easy to write a check when you have a lot of money, but we must never forget what Jesus talked about when he talked about the widow's mite. The 1 dinar that she had, that she gave in the temple, was all she had. So everybody can make a difference. All of us. You don't have to be rich. You don't even have to be middle class. Everybody can give, even if it's just the widow's mite. I love my husband so much. He's taught me so much. And so I give you Ed Scott.
Well, Cheryl is generally regarded as a very quiet person. So, this is the most I've ever heard her sing.
Amazing.
It truly is overwhelming, an incredible honor for us to be here in front of all of you. This room is filled with people of goodwill, and that's such a tremendously moving thing to experience. I had to use the men's room during the course of the evening, and I went in there, and there was one other gentleman in there. If he hears me talking about him, he'll be probably very surprised. But he had slacks on, a blue check shirt. He said, "Are you Mr. Scott?" I said, "I am indeed." He says, "Someday I'd like to do the stuff that you're doing. I've always thought I'd like to do that." And I said to him, just what Cheryl just said about Jesus and the widow with her 1 dinar. And I said, you don't have to be a billionaire or multi-millionaire to help change people's lives for the better. You just have to focus on a need and then give yourself to it with all your heart and all your energy. And he said, "Thank you very much," and walked up. I don't know his name, probably never see him again, but if you're still out there, I hope you will do what I just suggest.
Yes, sir.
Anyway, we thank you so much for the attention you've given us and the warm welcome you've given us We received a very nice bit of recognition about 3 years ago from a major bank in Paris called the BNP, Banque Nationale de Paris. And they it was the Grand Prize of Philanthropy for 2016. And the bank gave this award once a year to someone who they felt had done something important in philanthropy. And we were asked to speak as we have been asked tonight. And in back of us was a window from the Palais de Chaillot, and you could see the Eiffel Tower. You know, the Eiffel Tower blinks once an hour. And it was very, very overwhelming. But this was better. That evening, when I began my remarks, I mentioned something that actually is on my mind, and that is, as you get closer and closer to the end of the time God's allotted you, you need to think about, what have I done? And has anything I've done helped anybody else? And it's something I commend all of you to think about, because you don't want to reach that point in your life and be all alone and say, gee, I wish I had reached out. I could have helped somebody who really needed help, and I didn't do it. So I ask you to think about that. When Cheryl and I came to Brevard County, we had been involved in a number of fairly significant philanthropic initiatives, the biggest of which was the Center for Global Development. And we thought, well, we're just going to go to Brevard County. We're going to keep our head down, go to the beach, play a little tennis. Wrong. It just doesn't work out that way. God says, hey, I'm going to tell you what to do. You go do it. So you just have to listen when a little voice back there tells you to go do it. So anyway, you're a wonderful group of people. You've been so kind and generous to us. We thank you very much.